it's completely different feeling when you on the river and you doing, whatever you like. You can do dry fly, you can do the wet fly, you can do anything. When the competition is just completely different thinking and different feeling.
Hello and welcome to the Ireland on the Fly podcast about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland. On this week's episode, we're joined by Darius Simkus, who, despite only picking up a fly rod 15 years ago, within a short space of time, he was fishing for Ireland, winning national titles, and is the 2023 captain of the ITFFA Irish Rivers team. Darius tells us why competition fishing is so important to him, how he learned so much through self-belief and self-confidence, plus he has some useful tactics and tips for river fishing at this time of year. And Tom, talking to Darius really for the episode, it just reminded me a lot about us. We'd have a plan A, plan B, plan C, think far ahead.
Yeah, the similarities were frightening, Darrow.
People might be surprised to think, how much preparation goes into these.
People would be very surprised, the amount of preparation that goes into this. They really would be surprised. Yeah, just like ourselves. Wasn't it brilliant to hear him? I think that was fantastic when he talked about having, it actually wasn't a bad day at a competition, but as it transpired, to him, he thought it was a good day. And then when the other results came in, he found out that it wasn't a great day. And his response to it, I have to admire it. And it's definitely, it's a competitive streak. And Darius shows it. And he also mentions a lot about thinking about things and thinking over and how he brings that into competition fishing. And we've been through this before, and you say it yourself. I mean, we discussed the different paths that everybody went, but and I always say it's not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fair enough. But I enjoy it. Darius obviously enjoys it. You, on the other hand.
But what I've come to realize at times is I think we all have kind of certain things that we strive to be competitive in, and then other things are just that's our downtime or our time off. Now, Some people maybe just take everything so seriously.
That's it. I do know some people who take everything.
Yeah, they're generally people I don't go to the pub with.
Well, they'll always be there before you anyway. Yes. And they'll always drink more than you, and they'll always be,
because Darius only picked up a fly rod in 2008, but that thing, what he said was, how do I get better? How do I get better?
Yeah.
A lot to be admired in a way.
And you saw it there from what Darius was saying. All the other types of methods that we've got that have just come through from competition fishing.
Yeah.
Talking about it there when he discusses Spanish nymphing, which was very interesting to hear about, and his own method for high water, which I didn't know about.
Yeah.
And this would have all stemmed from guys trying this out of competition fishing by fishing waters or fishing rivers when normally most people wouldn't fish them. But because the competition was on, they had to fish them. So, it has its plus points.
And interestingly, we get into how river anglers are so much better than lake anglers.
Yeah, I've said it. It's much harder for a lake angler to go over to fish the river. But let's say that.
Well, let's hear from Darius now. And I first asked him to tell us how he got into fly fishing and a bit about his own background in Lithuania.
I'm living in Ireland from 2004. I'm fishing from maybe when I was 5 years of age. Probably started like everyone else, a worm and a float, and then just enjoy it. Every day was more relaxed, and you try to learn a lot of. And the year 2004, I moved to Ireland, and I started fishing again, like coarse fishing, sea fishing, and everything. And then in 2008, I moved to Galway, and I try a fly fishing. The second I hold a fly fishing rod and I get my first fish, I just was excited. And after that day, I fishing for any species in Ireland on the fly. I fish in sea, I fish in lakes, I fish in rivers, I fishing in the carp lakes, everywhere. And then I tried to fish for the competitions, and I don't know, I just love it. I love competition fishing.
We'll get into that in a bit more detail in a minute, Darius. I'm just interested, maybe just tell you, where are you from? Is it Lithuania, is it?
Yeah, originally from Lithuania, but living in Ireland from 2004.
So tell me, what was the fishing like? What's the landscape like in Lithuania? Was it rivers, sea? Tell me a bit more about that.
You see, we have a Baltic Sea and we have a few big rivers. but the fly fishing probably starts not that long ago, or maybe it was only few people who fish at fly fishing, because like all the European countries more like coarse fishing, spinning. Now these days, yeah, the even Lithuanian have their own national fly fishing team, which one was only start maybe 2 years ago.
And is it the rivers, like, is it trout in the rivers there?
Yes, we have a trout, we have a sea trout, we have big salmon, we have chub, we have good few species, which one you don't have in Ireland.
So fly fishing is something that's relatively new, but it's growing in popularity.
Oh yes, it's growing at the moment, yeah.
What about sea trout? Is it fished for much? Obviously, with the Baltic there, sea trout.
Oh yeah, people fishing for a sea trout as well on the fly and the spinning, and we have a few big rivers in Lithuania.
The reason why I'm asking so much, I'm always interested in the kind of next frontier or the next place, because Slovenia was like a couple of years ago was like the place to go, wasn't it? Like, in terms of European fly fishing. And I'm going to Croatia this summer. I'll let you know how I get on there. Yeah. But, and obviously we know of the kind of Scandinavian countries, but you don't really hear much about, say, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, those kind of countries in terms of flight. So there could be potential there, like in terms of exploring and finding out more if people are looking to maybe go down a less explored path.
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm saying. Like, it was only few people who start fly fishing in Lithuania or Latvia or in other countries. When you have a Poland and another countries where the fly fishing is years ago. Same in Ireland. Like, if you look to the history, it's like 100 years ago.
Interesting. Have you ever gone back home and fly fished now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, maybe 25 years ago, maybe more. I saw two guys fishing in the river, my local river back in Lithuania, on the fly. And it was, something special. And I always want to learn fly fishing, and I always want to catch fish on the fly. And I did it.
But you had to come to Ireland.
Yeah, I have to come to Ireland. Yeah, a few years ago I was back in Lithuania, and we fished a few beautiful rivers in Lithuania. One of them is named Merkys, and another one is Akmena. It's completely different rivers from Ireland or England or another one.
In what way, Darius?
They more grow, like there's a lot of trees, always challenging rivers. Right. If you know what I mean, like you don't have a little path with no trees. In Ireland, like if you fish the River Nore, you're always wide, and you most of the place you can wade in and fish it. That little river Akmena, it was trees. You have to get in between the branches. Small shore casts, like more tactical fishing than pleasure fishing.
Yeah, sounds like you'd have to be fit to fish them.
Oh yeah, you have to be fit. Yeah. Like especially if you're fishing competitions, you have to be fit. Like in Ireland, we have the closed season from 31st of September. So basically, you have to do the gym or have to do the running or something like that to keep fit till the new season starts.
The first time you picked up a fly rod was 2008. That's interesting, actually, because I only started fly fishing around then, and our paths kind of went like that. For
those without the benefit of, should we say, visual aids, Dara put his two hands together and splayed them apart. Okay.
So Darius went competition fishing for Ireland, captaining Ireland. I didn't. That's where the two roads diverged in a wood. You must have been doing some amount of fishing, or else you're just very good.
No, actually, I can tell you the story what happened. I qualified for Connacht, fished the nationals in the River Liffey. I can't remember the year now, but I came in the stretch of the water, and in 3 hours I got maybe 5 fish. I was happy because first national competition and representing Connacht, I was happy. And then after the lunch we have to go to bead or another spot. And in the evening time after the competition, I find out the guy who fishing after me, he got 25 fish. And I couldn't understand how he got more fish than me. And something just told me in the head, I have to come back now in the same spot and come back when I'm going to get 25 fish from that stretch. And actually I did it. I got 32.
Good man. Good man.
Yeah. It took maybe 1 year, roughly 1 season, maybe 1.5 season to kind of understand where the fish laying, to understand what time of the day they feed or what flies they take or what to do, where to start fishing. It takes time.
Where did that learning and that understanding come from? Like, were you seeking advice? Were you reading books, or were you literally just putting time into the water going, right, that worked, that didn't work, this will work?
It's a bit of both. It's very good if you have a friend or someone who tell you or teach you and show you. For me, it was a YouTube, magazines, a few books. Because you know yourself, like the people don't really want to share information. Like if someone's spending 5 years to learn the things and they don't really want to share.
I usually say something like this around this stage, Darius. I go, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Somebody wouldn't tell you something.
No, you see, a lot of time you have to put it in. Like they do a lot of practice.
If I just ask you there, Darius, now, just prior to you getting into competition fishing, when you started the fly fishing, how did you teach yourself to cast, or did you go with a friend that casted, or did you go to a club, or what did you do?
I watched a lot of videos.
Right.
I watched a lot of videos. I asked a good few people to show me, and they said we can show you and everything, but you have to learn yourself.
Right.
So basically, the more time you're spending on the water, the faster you're gonna learn. And then just you have to work hard, and a lot of people just give up.
Well, you see, it's very interesting. It's your reaction there, and I notice this and transfers across to all sports. But your reaction to somebody, let's say, giving you a 25-5 beating, was not to give up, but your reaction was, I want to get more. I want to get 25, and then I want to get more than 25. And that's in my way, in any sporting ethos at all, that's how you improve, and that's how you should react. You should learn from your defeats or whatever.
Yeah, but you then don't give up. Like you can't win all competitions, but you can try.
Yeah.
But you have to put a lot of work. You have to practice. You have to try different things. You have to fish different weather, high river, low river. Makes difference. On the competition, you have to catch the fish. That's it.
But it really interesting as well as the competition angle to it. I've never fished competitions, and I don't have interest. That's just, I'm too lax. I'm just more relaxed about kind of my fly fishing. But you, like you said at the start, just competitions really appealed to you. That competitive nature, and I can see that in you then, obviously, because then when you are taking part in competitions, if you do want to get better, if you want to win, if you're competitive, you're going to go, right, I want to beat that 25 next year. So, but it's only by being in that competition scene you get into that mindset, isn't it?
How to explain it? I see some people taking too serious, and they just start thinking, oh, this man is better than me, or this guy better than me, and then they upset themselves. It happens to me a few times, but I kind of start thinking, not give up, and I start thinking I'm good enough if I'm fishing in this competition. So you have to kind of always think positive. Self-belief, yes.
And if you picked up the fly rod in 2008, when did you start competition fishing?
The first time I qualified for Ireland was 2012.
Jeez, what could have been, Tom? What could have been for me?
I'm telling you, you just went on the wrong path, Tara. The wrong path.
So were you fishing competitions like 2010? Like how soon after?
Yeah, I did it like few local ones, but the first time I qualified was on the River Annalee in Cavan or Navan.
Cavan, yeah.
That's my was first Irish a cup. I finished fifth, I think so, but still qualified for Ireland.
And that was soon after, like only a couple of years after. Like that's some trajectory.
Yeah, but like I said, you have to do a lot of practice. You have to spend the time. You have to spend the time on your own rivers. You have to spend the time on the rivers when going to be qualifiers. You have to work hard, and you have to have free time. You see, I had no family or no kids that time, so I have a lot of free time, and I can go fishing every weekend. When you have a small children and wife and work, it's kind of a little bit limited.
Very true. Very true.
Very true. Fair point.
Because you have to spend the time with the kids and family, and and you can't just stop fly fishing or stop do the competitions.
What was the highlight for you, Darius, in terms of the competitions? What was the best memory or best moment?
You see, I always want to win All Ireland in the Taffy or All Ireland in the ITFFA. Actually, I did it. In 2015, I won All Ireland in North Ireland. 2022, I won All Ireland in ITFFA. I was in the World Championships 6 times representing Ireland in ITFFA. I'm the captain this year of Irish Fly Fishing Federation. We're going to the Wales. We came second and we came third in European Grayling Festival in the River Dee in Wales. So
a lot of good moments.
I think probably for you to wish to win the national championship, it must have been sweet to have won the first one in 2015. You said.
That's the big win. Like when you have 60 maybe more people, best anglers from Ireland, and you make a plan and you stick to the plan, and at the end of the day, you can see you did everything what you can, and that's the result.
What was the world? What's it like fishing in the worlds? Must be very intense. You see the quality of the anglers, like from European countries. It must be some learning experience at the same time.
Oh yeah. Like for example, in Ireland, you have 50, 60 best anglers in Ireland. I was in 2017 in Slovakia, and it was, I think, 150, 25 countries. And I was fishing against the best, like the world champions. And, it's amazing. And everyone is friendly. Everyone talks to you. Everyone, after the competition, sharing with you information and then showing you setups and everything. I was like, 2 weeks in that World Championships, and I came back. I was all my last couple of years of practicing. It was completely changed. Really? I learned a lot in them couple weeks in the World Championships with talking with the anglers from all over the world, like.
In a lot of respects, it's fishing, Jim, but not as we know it. It's completely different. Like we mentioned there about you have to be fit. You do have to be fit for a World Championship. If for a lot of sections that you could be on, you have to be able to be physically able to get back to your if there is a lot of fish to be caught in a river, that's where it really comes in, doesn't it, Derek?
Yeah. You have to be fit. Like imagine yourself, Tom. Now, you're fishing 3-hour session, yeah. And you like it was one of the checks. In 3 hours, you got 52 fish. So you can do the maths. You have to run to the controller, measure your fish, sign up the card, and come back fishing again.
Yeah.
So basically, you have to be like every 2-3 minutes.
Yeah. So basically, he was probably catching a fish every 2 to 3, at most 4 minutes. Yeah. That was probably the longest gap.
Yeah. So imagine 3 hours nonstop.
Yeah.
But even aside from the physical, Darius, is I know from chatting to other lads about it, is the mental, because you have to be so tuned in for every second that you're on that water. You know, just like I even think 3 hours of that mental concentration, mental focus must be just exhausting as well.
Yeah, you have to see, like, I always walk my stretch. Like before the competition, you have a draw and you have your peg number and wherever you're going to start. So I always walk and look. I read the water. I make a plan in the head, where I'm going to start, where I'm going to finish, what I'm going to do. And you just go and do it. I know sometimes the plan don't works. And some people just get, lost and they don't know what to do next. That's why the competition fishing is a little bit different. You always have to think what you're gonna next. If you can catch the fish on one method, you have to switch. So you have to kind of always be plan B.
Or to use a word you've used quite a lot already, Darius, you always have to be thinking.
Yeah, you have to always thinking, and because it's a competition, every minute counts and every fish counts, and one fish can make big difference.
Like when you first started fishing the Worlds, and you were saying you learned so much in those 2 weeks, say, but is it more that you were learning small things, that the gap wasn't, so big, but it was just that the gap was the little things, was it? Or
when I start fly fishing or nymphing or different techniques, I learn myself. So I was not sure I'm doing right or I'm doing wrong or what's going on. When I came back from World Championships, basically, when I had the questions what I'm doing wrong, I got answers on that.
Right.
So basically what was, if I catching the fish, that means I'm doing something right. Mm. So it is, yourself, Tom, when you go fishing in the Carib or at any lake, you have to understand what flies hatching, where fish are, what weather conditions, all this. And you can spend it a lot of time drifting the same place and you're going to get no fish. Mm. But then you come back another day, you're going to do exactly the same and you're going to get 5, 6, maybe 10 fish.
Yeah. But it's knowing when to do that and when to do it right, or knowing when not to do that drift to go
exactly.
So I know, it sounds very simple, but this what we're saying about thinking. Sometimes you only have to think about the simple things.
Yeah.
But come here, it's very interesting. We're just on there. But I know as well from you, Darius, you still do a fair bit of pleasure fishing, though.
Yes, I do. I love fishing the lakes.
Yeah.
I love fishing the Carib. I love fishing La Plaine. Any lake.
Mm. Did you find it hard? Did you find it hard to do the switch over from rivers to lakes? I mean, we often have this. What's harder? Is it harder for a river man to switch to a lake, or is it harder for a lake man to switch to a river? Can I just say, I obviously think it's harder for a lake man to switch to a river.
Yes, I agree with you, Tom, on that one.
Thank you, Darius.
You see, the river angler can't take his 5-weight rod and go in the boat and fish it. Mm. When these new days, like on the river for nymphing or dry fly fishing, we're using 2-weight, 1-weight, 0-weight, 11-foot rods, fine tippet, 0.08 millimeters diameter. Is more complicated, and you fishing in the lake I think is much easier. You're just sitting in the drifting boat and you just fishing, casting, and enjoying. But it's not true. You know yourself, Tom, if you're in the competition mode, you have to do the homework, you have to put the time in it, and you have to know what to do.
Well, from what you're saying though, Darius, and I strongly agree with you, you're saying river anglers are much better. Is that what you're basically saying?
No, I'm not. I'm not saying the river anglers is better, but I'm saying.
Well, I don't know. I'm detecting undertones here.
You're being outnumbered now, Tom.
2-1. I'm in a corner here, but I'm going to fight my way out.
Okay, Tom. I remember that. I think the river competitor anglers is more complicated.
Mm.
You know, we always have like 3 rods, set up different methods, and you know, carrying a lot of flies, and then you have to have a way. There's nets. You know, is more complicated when you know you're fishing the lakes. Is you have more kind of enjoyable fishing. I could be wrong. You see, I not have that much experience in the lakes like you, Tom, or somebody else. But every day, I can go any day in the Carib, fish all day, catch nothing, that I'm going to be happy.
You're right about it not being complicated. Like any fishing I do, it's all wet fly fishing I do, and I don't do anything else. So there's nothing else to be.
Don't tell anyone.
Cast and hope, and that's it. Like, oh, sure, geez, I'm going to fish. How lucky was that?
Yeah, very lucky. Yeah, but sure, look, geez, I don't know what happened. He just happened to be there. But, yeah, I do see. Like, I have a classic example. I used to do a bit of river fishing, competition fishing. I actually did qualify for Irish teams off the river, but I hadn't done it for 15 years, and I had a box of weighted nymphs once, and I forget who I met, but there are some, and I can't think of some. It's a competition guy who's fishes competitions now in the present, right? And I just happened to have the box. I said, "Oh yeah, here's my stuff," and I opened the box, and he looked at me and he went, "We've moved on a bit since then." I felt, all right, okay, so yeah.
Actually, can I ask you this though, Tom and Darius? And again, my complete ignorance, so please bear with me, but is there a lot more evolution and developments and innovations you see in river competition fishing compared to
yeah. 100%, yeah.
But would you not say that has come down mainly on account of nymphing? We'll call it euro nymphing or lobbing, but we'll call it euro nymphing. Yeah, and really it is that. But prior to you had the nymphing, really, it was almost like loch fishing. You had upstream dries, you had down across wet, and you had upstream nymphing. And they were the 3 methods you really have. But when the high stick nymphing came in, that suddenly opened up all these technicalities, no? Yes,
but you see, the nymphing is like most of the fish food is on the water. So, you know, like what I can't tell you exactly what the numbers are, but there's like good percentage of the fish food is in nymphs.
Yeah.
You see, all these methods like European nymphing or French nymphing, Spanish nymphing, that's come from the Europe. Like, you know, that's the best countries on fly fishing. So, you know, the more time you qualify and you go to the World Championships or European Championships, you see different countries, different techniques, and then you come back to Ireland and you can adjust or use something similar.
It is fascinating. I'm always fascinated how different styles have developed in different countries because of conditions, you know, because, you know, it was how difficult it was for anglers to catch these fish in the rivers, and they had to develop methods to actually do it. And I find that fascinating how each of them had their own kind of traits, and obviously it's all crossing over now into one general term of Euro nymphing.
Yeah.
But can I ask you, Darius, what's your favorite method for catching trout?
Dry fly.
Oh. Okay, and can I ask you another question? So, because we just mentioned percentages there. In competition fishing, let's say over the last year, how many, what was the percentage of fish that you measured on dry fly? Roughly, it doesn't have to be exact. Seriously, this is I'm genuinely asking, just a guesstimate on how many you think you might have caught on dries.
Next question.
So if you want to catch fish, is there any particular style of nymphing that you prefer?
Just straight like Spanish nymphing, or you can call Euro nymphing.
What is Spanish nymphing? So, like, describe the Spanish nymphing setup and a rig and how you fish it to us.
Spanish nymphing rig is just simple, just one same diameter line going from your nymphing line So basically, you're using much lighter monoline. So you have better control, better feeling. So if you don't fishing competitions and you want to use the Spanish style nymphing rig, you just get 0.18 millimeters maximal line. Then you add your sighter, same diameter, 0.18 millimeters. Then you have a micro ring or a tiny perfection loop. Then you add your tip at 2 flies, and that's it.
Come here. Have you any fly line out at all?
You see, if you're fishing the competitions, as the rules. So all your nymphing leader has to be not longer than twice of the rod.
Right.
From the fly line to the bottom of the fly.
Right.
So if you're fishing for 11-foot nymphing rod, that means your leader has to be 22 foot, no longer.
No longer than 22 foot.
No If you're fishing for a pleasure, you can have 5 meters or 10 meters if you like. Some people not even using the fly line, they just filling up the reel with mono and just fishing away.
Yeah, there's in a lot of it, there's actually no need for a fly line.
No need, no.
Yeah.
Like, I learn everything myself. So what I understand is you have to find the way or feel the thing when you fishing the nymphs in right depth. I was watching good few people fishing in the rivers and everything, and you ask them what you're doing or whatever it is, and we nymphing. And you're watching them and they just casting upstream and letting down and casting, and you're gonna get 1 or 2 fish. But you have to understand when you throw in your nymphs, and you have to understand where they are in the water columns. Are they too deep? Or are they too shallow? Or you have to kind of hold it, or you have to, you see, it's very hard to explain this. So you have to learn yourself and understand that. Some people casting 5 casts and every time they hitting the bottom, that's mean you're fishing too heavy. So you have to change your flies. You have to kind of find the way when the flies are longer in the feeding zone. So that's very important in the competitions. The less time you're spending on making the mistakes, to getting more fish. The more time that you have a chance of catching fish. Yeah.
What about it for you, Tom? When you were fishing the rivers, did you like the nymphing, Tom?
Yeah, I didn't mind it. But to be honest, what always drew it, I'll tell you what. Yeah, no, what drew me to rivers first was dry fly fishing.
Ah, okay.
Right. And here's the thing. I actually, as you know, I love nymphing on the lake. Right. I love buzzer fishing. I love nymph fishing. I couldn't spend enough time on the rivers and didn't have, I didn't have the rivers around me to practice on, to get good at it. And we mentioned earlier on, I don't know, was it just before we get on, but about confidence, or whether we said it. And that was my big problem, nymphing. And Darius, you just touched on it there. You said you have to have your flies in the area where the fish were. And a lot of the time when I was nymphing, I didn't have the confidence to believe that I was fishing them 100% right. And I think I would have had to spend more time on it to get better at it. I liked it when it worked for me. Of course it did. You like any method when it works for you, right? But when it wasn't working for me, I started having doubts about it, right? And once you have doubts about it, it's never good. Never good. Not in competition fishing anyway.
Yeah, doubts about the method, was it, Tom?
Yeah, doubts about whether I was doing it right, whether my setup was right, or my, if I wasn't catching bottom, should I put on heavier nymphs? And the next thing I'd catch the bottom and then that would throw me. I lacked confidence in it. And I lacked confidence in it because I didn't do it often enough. Yeah, I mean, if I could do it more, I'd love it. Still, like Darius said there, I mean, what drew me to river fishing, there's just nothing to beat casting upstream, watching your fly coming down just over the spot where you've seen the fish move. And the next thing, yeah, that's what drew me to river fishing.
And Darius, where's some of the favorite spots you like to fish in Ireland, rivers and lakes?
River Nore, River Shore, Corrib, Loch Lane, Blackwater and Mallow. River Fane, I like any river or any lake. because the more time you're spending on different rivers, you'll get the more skills, you get learning, because every river is totally different, the fish feeding differently. So, you're getting experience as well. And of course, you're meeting the new friends, new people.
New experiences, yeah.
Yeah.
Darius, you might just, obviously the last few weeks have been horrendous in terms of the rain and river height and the water levels. Any tips for people in terms of those kind of conditions, in terms of how they should be approaching these kind of conditions?
Just stay safe, first of all. Like,
Good one. Yeah.
If the river is too high, and too risky, like it's not worth it. Just better wait when the waters be, in safe order, and then try go fish it. For dirty water, like I'd say some people gonna do streamer fishing or wet fly fishing. I kind of go different way. I be fishing Euro nymphing with streamer and nymph.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So
how do you don't mind asking? How do you rig that up? What's first? What's the point fly?
A jig streamer.
Right.
So you tie up your streamer on the jig hook.
Yeah.
Like 4mm bead, marabou tail, whatever streamer you use it summertime or autumn time or whatever. And then you just tie up another one on the top dropper, like a wet fly or another nymph, bigger nymph. And you're fishing like nymph fishing. You're casting upstream, you're letting down, and you're jigging the rod and let it swing. And most of the times on the swing, you getting the fish.
Right. Yeah, it sounds a good method.
Yeah.
And you're targeting then just because the high water kind of close into the bank, really, because it's hard to get very far.
Yeah,
out.
you can raise like you see, if you're not able to wade in the river, stay on the bank and just try to look for the places where there's a little bit shelter from the main current, like behind the rocks, little grooves, in the bank where the water kind of slowing down, because like the fish not gonna stay in the main current. They're not gonna fight, especially in the springtime. They have to kind of stay somewhere where they have shelter.
And would you still, like, obviously people talk a lot about streamers, and I suppose you're kind of hedging your bets in that respect with that rig. Is it that you've got the streamer on, so you're hoping they'll pick that, but then do you find they'll also take the nymph a lot of the time as well?
Sometimes the fish taking the nymphs, like, because in the flood there's a lot of food coming in, like worms and then the bigger insects, and it's not only the little leeches or something like that. Sometimes when there's a flood, I even fishing only 2 nymphs, but I'm normally, like, if I fish size 12 or size 14, I tighten up a big fly, maybe size 8 or size 10. And you're still getting the fish like 10, 15 centimeters.
Right.
Try use the darker colors, because if the water is colored, the black stands up better. Always using the black streamer with the orange or chartreuse or silver head, the little kind of a hitting point or attracting point.
Darius, what's your typical setup when you're going, say, to your local river nymphing? Like, do you use like 0 or a 1 or a 2? What's your go-to setup?
Like, you see, if you're fishing the river and there's very rare chance to get a big fish, you try fish the lowest possible, or I can say the diameter you feel comfortable. So if you feel comfortable, fish it with 0.14, you can go fish it for 0.14. You see, when I'm fishing the competitions like a River Nore or River Shore or another river, my start point is like 0.10.
Right.
If I stop catching the fish, or you can see, the fish taking differently, you can go even lower, 0.08 or even 0.07. But then is a problem. You can't force the fish, so you have to be gentle. Your rods has to be soft. You have to play fish differently. You see, is again fluorocarbon or monofilament. What methods you using? Are you fishing dry fly, or you nymphing, or you wet fly fishing? All these little things comes,
Actually, just want to ask you there, Darius, when you say, let's say you're on 0.007, you have to play a fish differently without giving, like, is it that you just play them softer? Is it basically that you're
just trying to hold them, like if he wants to go this way, you let them go this way, Like the little sample last year in the National Thomastown competition in Kilkenny, I hooked a fish on 0.10.
Right.
And I thought it's a salmon because I couldn't stop him. It was just going this way. So the salmon not counts in that competition. Yeah. So if you catch the salmon, you're just wasting your time by the time you're going to land it and everything on the light tackle. But in that river is a few rainbow trout, which one escapes from the fishery. So I knew it's a big fish. And I said to myself, I want to see that fish. Is a salmon? If it's going to be salmon, I'm just going to snap the line and go back fishing. And I bring it in, and I saw a pink color gills. And I understand is a rainbow trout. So it took me 15 minutes, maybe 12 minutes to land it. And it was 58 centimeters on 0.10, size 18 Perdigon.
Right. Size 18 Perdigon on 0.010.
Yeah.
58 centimeter fish. And I have it here for tomorrow's hospice competition here. 58 centimeter on the list we're using tomorrow will be given 4.706 pounds.
Yeah. That's the rainbow.
So you're talking a fish that was in or around 5 pounds. Could have been in or around 5 pounds. Yeah. Why did you take so long with them? What the hell is wrong with you? For God's sake, you should have brought that fish in, man.
Darius, come here, tell us. You've caught plenty of fish, plenty of memorable places, and plenty of memorable moments. But is there one fish that stands out for your most memorable fish on the fly?
Corrib. Yeah.
Now you're talking.
Honestly, Corrib, yeah.
So after all this river talk, it was still the lake that did it for you. Go on.
I'd say it's not about the lake or river. It's about the way the fish took the fly and what happened. Do you know what I mean? Like, is that a few years ago I was fishing the local competition, and I got a boatman, which when I know a couple of years, and you always having a good crack, fishing away, chatting away, laughing together, having the lunch on the bank, Tom, that feeling, yeah?
Yeah.
So the fishing was very hard. There was no wind, sunshine, flat camp. So all day we saw maybe 2 or 3 fish. And then we moved closer to the birch hole, across another side of the Molly's Rock. That nice. So we're drifting away. It was like maybe 30 minutes left to the time to go back to the pier, and we're fishing dries and chatting away. And I cast her out my line, and I looked at my boatman and I said, imagine now, the big fish gonna come up now, open his mouth, gonna take my fly, and I'm gonna get him. And he started laughing. He said, stop dreaming and this and that. 5 seconds later, I see the big mouth comes out from the water, taking the fly and disappears. Couple seconds, I just freeze and I like, what am I going to do now? And I lift the rod, and it was a fish, like, I thought it was like a 10-pounder or 7-pounder, It took me maybe 20 minutes to land it. And the guy said, you better hurry up, because if you're going to spend it no more 5 minutes, we're going to late to come back in the pier.
Right.
So I just landed that fish in the net, and we came back to the pier. And that day actually was good few fish caught, nice fish, like 3.5, up to the 4 pounds or,
Yeah.
And I came second with 1 fish. it was the heaviest fish of the day, like. So I was delighted. It was over 4 pound weight, like, you know.
Beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful.
So
on a dry fly.
On the dry fly and the dry sedge. But the take was amazing. Like you know, like in New Zealand, Tom, the big fish come up, you can see his jaws and just takes the fly and goes down. It was crazy.
And you know what I take from that, Darius, comes back to what you said at the start, self-belief.
Yeah, that's it.
You said, you know what? Yeah. The fish is gonna, you believed it.
Yeah, but it was funny. Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, you know, it was different feeling. Like, I loved, like, competition is a different, you know, you have to sometimes just take a break from the competitions and just do the pleasure fishing, just clear your mind, you know, for the routine and all the tactic thinking and all this. Like, I love dry fly fishing. You know, Tom, yourself in the evening time, you go in the river and you're sitting down and you're waiting for that one rise. And you never know, like, it could be a 20 centimeters fish, or it could be 70, 80.
I suppose the pleasure fishing, it reminds you why you fish in the first place, doesn't it?
Oh yeah. It's just, you know, it's completely different feeling when you on the river and you doing, you know, whatever you like. You can do dry fly, you can do the wet fly, you can do anything. When the competition is just completely different thinking and different feeling.
Well, Darius, tight lines for the season. Some really interesting insights there as well in terms of kind of maybe approaching the rivers and tactics. We might catch up with you again later in the season, get some more insights and tips from you and find out how the season is going for you. But Darius, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Sidelines.
Our thanks to Darius for joining on the show. And don't forget to rate, review and follow the Ireland on the Fly podcast on Apple, Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Plus, you can keep up to date on IrelandOnTheFly.com as well as on Instagram, and myself and Tom will be back with another episode about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland.